What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Live Beyond Average podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Miller. We're jumping on today, episode 200. That's pretty legit. And actually, we have a few more than that are unlabeled, a few that we took off the podcast. So we're a little bit over that, but this is the official 200th episode. Super excited to be filming this morning. It's Monday morning. I love Mondays. You guys know that. And we've been filming, I was looking back, we've been filming this show on and off for like 6 years. I believe our first episode was like 2018. And we've gone in waves of it depending on the area of life I'm in. There's times where I know I'm supposed to be speaking and speaking out to many of you, speaking out into the world. And there's times where I know I need to be quiet and listen and learn and obtain wisdom and knowledge and not just let it be this intellectual thing where I can know something from a surface level and memorize something and just make something my own and spew it back out to you guys. I really want to ingest and let things penetrate my heart and create transformation and change in myself before actually speaking on it. That's how I know if something's real or true. And one of the things that's really funny I was thinking about, and I've talked on this on my social media, it's probably been a couple of years, but I was thinking about it again, is the difference, what keeps something going? Like why have I been in business since 2011 and it's stuck and it's gone well, and the transformation from the beginning on what motivates you until what motivates you now on year 13. And at the beginning, it's really funny, like even when we started this show in 2018, was like being really motivated, what I call FU energy. So put in the words there for FU energy and how that really works. At the beginning, it was really FU energy. I was working for another company, and while I was still had my own business, so a lot of hours worked there, and I was really frustrated with where I was at. And so I needed a place where I could go and speak and put my ideas out more than the TV show we were filming at the time. I needed a place where I could sit down and just like speak into a mic. So we created the podcast, the Live Beyond Average podcast. And a lot of the motivation in that was FU energy. What is FU energy? FU energy is when you go out and you're motivated to really prove people wrong, to show people what you can do and who you are because people don't think you can, or you've made up in your mind that people don't think you can. It doesn't really matter. That's what FU energy is. It really helps get you going, and it works. FU energy works at the beginning, and sometimes it's really needed to help get some people off their ass and get moving. And so there is a time and a place for FU energy, but it's not sustainable. Think about our first episode back here a few weeks ago where I was talking about, on the I'm Back episode, where I was talking about living from an abundance of overflow and how living from an abundance of overflow is different. FU energy is definitely not living from an abundance of overflow. It's actually oftentimes taking from your cup because you're living frustrated. You're living kind of out of anger, motivated from those things. And they do motivate you, but like I said, for a short time. Sometimes it is needed to live out of that to get you moving, but we have to mature into then this other realm. Remember that in the realm of FU energy, let me get this right. Let me really straighten out my thought here. When you're living out of an abundance of overflow, you aren't motivated by FU energy, you're inspired by authenticity. I'm gonna say that one more time. When you're living out of the abundance of overflow, you aren't motivated by FU energy, you're inspired by authenticity. FU energy really drains you. It steals from your cup, and you often live out of that frustration and anger. Sometimes this actually is needed. But we have to mature. We have to start moving into authenticity. If we want to see a sustained action if we want to move from motivation into inspiration, the maturity, the self-growth inside the inward parts of us have to grow into who we are instead of always being frustrated by the thoughts and what people think about us. We have to move away from the fear man and what people think about us and move into who we truly are. When we're truly at peace and at rest in who we are and we're authentically us, then we can really start accomplishing some very big things in the lasting peace. We don't have to then always worry about that next step because the next step is always provided for us. Okay? So when you start operating out of authenticity, you start working from a place of rest. When you start, I'll say it one more time, when you start operating out of authenticity, you start working out of a place of rest. We often mistake rest for being this place of physical stationary. We're being physically stationary when we think about rest. And that is one type of rest, but there's actually a greater type of rest as well. And that is one where we can be spiritually seated, but physically moving. Think about this. If you've ever been out on a hike, out in nature, or out, maybe you're a runner, you've been out running, and maybe even training in the gym, you're physically exerting yourself, but oftentimes you have these great epiphanies, you have these this great clarity in your thought from this place of physical movement, but your spirit may be at rest in that time. You may be very content and seated in those moments. And that is the greater rest I'm talking about. And so we have to, through authenticity, when we learn who we truly are, when we are being who we actually are, who we ought to be, we can be spiritually at rest, but physically moving. We can be in a job that maybe we're not happy that we're in, but still be executing it at an exceptional level and still be doing things honorably because our spirit is at rest and at peace and we're still physically doing something. This is how we accomplish great things. We can be working out, training, hiking, running, and being physically moving, but our spirit is so at rest within our authenticity that you can trust that the next portion of your supply is coming. Man, this is the opposite of grind culture. This is the exact opposite of grind culture. You can almost feel like you're being lazy when you start learning this because you stop striving so much. You stop trying so hard and you allow things to be and allow things to come. This is a journey of maturing in this area, and it takes grace to learn this because there is times where you need to put in some work and there is times where you need to put in time. And those we have to learn to be able to separate, but also bring together because things aren't meant to be separated all the time. So we have to separate our thought pattern from this old way of thinking, but then bring together in union our spirit and physicality at the same time. Because they're not meant to work against each other. They're actually meant to work for each other. And so when our spirit's at rest, we can still be doing things physically and accomplishing things instead of just being lazy on the couch. But that happens when we start understanding who we are, our authenticity within ourselves. So we want to move from that FU energy that keeps us unseated, that keeps us unsettled, and move into inspired authenticity that inspires action and inspires true action, and it inspires the next steps of who we actually are to accomplish what we want to accomplish, to really start dreaming big again. Maybe you used to dream big of things you wanted to do and you haven't been because they seem so far out of touch and reach. But this actually gives us, our authentic self gives us permission to start dreaming again and moving into inspired action for things to start falling into place so we can start accomplishing all of these things. Moving from FU energy into authenticity. That's the thing this week. That is the thing always, but this week we're going to be really thinking about that and focusing on that. We're going to be talking about that. So I wanted to give this little piece to you today in a short amount of time. Again, I love these little 10, 12-minute pieces we've been doing. I think we can jam-pack them with a lot of wisdom and things that just continue to help you think about that next step. So I hope you crush the rest of the week. Let's have a wonderful week, you guys. Let's move from FU energy into inspired authenticity this week. Thanks for joining today on the Live Beyond Average podcast. Share this with a friend that you think would benefit from this message. And if you're really feeling frisky, give it a share on social media. Have a great rest of your day, you guys. We'll see you later.